Kia ora, my name is Dan Scott. I'm a professional designer and I'm going to show you my step-by-step process to design a logo in Canva. All right, this is where we end up. Okay, we end up making this logo here for kind of a street skate car culture kind of brand. We make stickers. I'll give away some at the end. We end up making a giant sign that ends up failing, but it's actually okay. I'll show you that at the end as well. Living Spree Ink is a pseudonym that I am behind. If you have done any of my courses, you would have seen Living Spree kind of like throughout a lot of my courses. This is some of the things that I've done for it over time, but it needs its own brand now, and that's what I'm going to take you through my process of creating a logo for it. Let's jump in. And step number one is competitor analysis. All right, this is my competitor analysis. How do I do it? Go to Google Images and type in skate logos, car culture brands, streetwear logos. Take loads of screenshots. Then I go to ChatGPT and ask it things like, give me the 10 most popular snowboarding brands. This is especially good if you have no idea about the industry. I haven't snowboarded in like, 20 years, so I don't know the brands. If I was doing hair gel, I'd know the brands even less. But you can use things like ChatGPT to say, all right, now show me their logos. And also show me the lesser unknown brands. See an idea of what's kind of like new and hip and on the edge when you have no idea about the industry. Grab them all. Dump them into Canva and kind of sort them into some sort of groups. They don't have to be perfect, but what you'll start to notice is like, oh, look, most of them are just really heavy type. Over here, there's some kind of like characters going on. There's not too many. Here's another one I've done for the Canva Essentials course. We do an outdoor and camping company, and you'll notice that, can you see the comparison in this industry? There is very little. There's only two that I found that are just type on their own. Basically, this industry is really focused on having type and this logo mark, the actual kind of like symbol, a really simple one, left or right of the logo. Whereas for Living Spree and its competitors, they're all over here. That's why I love a competitor analysis. You get to know the industry really quickly. I find it a really big shortcut to get me into the industry that I don't know anything about. It also helps me talk with the client. I can sit down with a client. It looks like I know what I'm doing because I've done something fancy that's called a competitor analysis. And what we can decide is, do we need to fit in? That's what I want to do for Living Spree, is I want to fit in. So guess what? We're going to have to be in here. You're kind of more over there, aren't you? If you want to stand out, maybe we'd be over here. Will be something slightly different. Now, when it comes to different, this is different. This is healthcare. Try to think of something completely different. And this is definitely different, but not recognizably different. This is not going to pass in the urban streetwear skate market. So I use the term recognizably different. It still needs to fit in here somewhere, but maybe on this more radical side of things, something that's quite different from everyone else. It's still the same. Anyway, so we've got some tools, we've got some language. Let's get on to the mood board, the fun part. All right, this is where I ended up with my mood board. Basically, you search the internet looking for cool stuff. There's no real rules on what you can pick and what you like. I grab everything. Can be logos, can be images, can be just colors. So I use Dribbble or Behance or Pinterest often. Those are my go-tos. Take loads of screenshots, stick them all on a document. I pull out some colors using the eyedropper tool. These ones here are a bit more industrial looking things. I wanted to influence. They're not really things that I love, but I wanted to influence where I'm going. Here's some other mood boards for other projects, okay? It's just a mood board, inspiration board. All right, my next step is to then grab my notebook and start sketching. They're never that fancy. It's always just for myself, not really for anybody else. So I don't spend a whole lot of time here, okay? But especially if there's a logo mark, like the symbol part of the logo, I will spend some time just kind of sketching out some stuff. With this particular logo, we get to skip this step because this one's very type focused. Type is going to carry the brand in this case, so we're going to jump to the next step, which is looking at fonts. All right, I got a nice blank document. This is where you spend way too much of your life looking at fonts. I'm going to give you some tips, but let's throw in a bit of text. Hit the T key on your keyboard to throw in text. What I like to do is when I'm working on fonts, I have both a full caps, a title case, and a lowercase. That's not lowercase. I think it auto-corrected for me. Stop doing that. Because some fonts are not all the same. So we're going to work on these ones. I'm going to work on something that's just a little bit bigger. Select them all, make them bigger, and start here. Now you can do this. Just click on the font, actually click on all three fonts, go to this one and go, all right, I'm going to scroll and go boof, and then go you. And just click on everything forever. That's a way of doing it. It does take forever. So a couple little tricks is if I scroll to the top, you've got these options here to say, actually, I want just the display fonts, or just, I'm going to close that down. I'm going to want just the ones that are good for headings. Okay, and it kind of regroups everything and just shows you those ones. Let's click on a couple. So we've got some stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say U. I'm going to duplicate this lot that I got selected, Command D, okay, and drag it down and go for another one. Let's go. Ooh, I like the wide one. You can see some fonts only have uppercase. Some of them have both. This one looks good in uppercase, but not so much in this one. That's okay. Command D. That's Control D on a PC. Other helpful tips is when I'm looking at my mood board, I can start to see, I can see that everything is sans serif. Even these industrial ones here, there's no serifs. Serifs are the little feet that poke off the sides. So let's have a quick little look. Let's have a look at serif fonts. So serif fonts have the little feet. Can you see? These are little serifs here, okay? And what we can do is actually, I want all the fonts that are sans serif, so without serifs. Okay, that might be a nice, easy way to cut down this list. You wait there, I'm gonna pick a couple. All right, the other thing you can do when you are working with fonts is you can duplicate them out and say that I like this top one here in full caps. For some reason, I really wanted to have a period at the end there, gives it that ink feeling, okay, is when they are selected, instead of going to the text along the top, you can go to effects, and there are some basic options in here, like hollow, splice, outline. There might be something in here that you dig. All right, another one is that you might have two separate kind of words or names. I'm kind of using mine as the same thing, but we've got two little groups of words, and I want to somehow like have two fonts that are complementary. Okay, Canva has it built in. Okay, what we can do is we can say, all right, go to type. And what happens is if you scroll to the bottom, you will see this font combination. So Canva's gone along and said, all right, this font plus this font looks kind of cool. You click on it and you can go in here and say, actually, I want this to be living. Cool, huh? It's like a super duper shortcut of like, all right, somebody else has done some of the work. Okay, often they call it font pairing as well. So Canva has some built-in stuff, like built directly into the software. Plus Canva's got some resources that are helpful. Okay, if you go to canva.com/learn, I'll leave these links, there's two of them here in the description. Okay, you're looking for this font pairing. Canva uses Google Fonts to do its fonts inside of Canva. So that is another handy term, Google font pairing or Google font combinations. Okay, and what you'll do is you'll find pages like this where you'll see examples of somebody else making stuff. So you can say, all right, League Spartan and Libra Basketball combine to make this. And you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. All right, that's kind of cool. It's kind of in my industrial kind of look. So I'm going to say, all right, League Spartan, I go copy, I go U, this one here, I'm going to ungroup it and say this top font here is going to be not lot anymore. If I can click on it, okay, it's going to be League Spartan. There it is there. All right, and then I can go down to this one here, and this one was called Libra Basketball. So I'm going to say U, Libra Basketball, okay, I'm going to say I'm going to pick U. Maybe I pick the one in here that is regular, and maybe I go it's italics because that's the way I liked it in the other one. And lowercase, and not all lowercase, total case. And you spend all day looking at fonts. So the fonts built into Canva, some of them are free, some of them are paid. Often I'll go out and find my own font. Something like Envato Elements is a really good one, link in the description. And I went into their font section and just typed in industrial, because that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. You can see in here, there's a bunch of different fonts. The cool thing about it is often they're mocked up in a really nice way. You can download them from here, go into Canva, go into, let's say, this font here and say, all right, I want this font and I want to go back here and see down the bottom, it says upload a font. You can upload your very own font, and that's what I'm going to do for a few of mine as well. Some of the ones inspired by my mood board, actually, I'll show you a little trick here. So let's grab one, let's grab this one here and I can copy it. I'm going to go to my logo design and I'm going to say, you are really cool. I want that kind of old TV stuff, 60s, 50s. Anyway, it's very cool. Okay, and I want that font. I'm probably not going to find it specifically, but it's going to get me close. Let's give it a go. So let's go to edit. Okay, and up the top here is the Magic Studio. One of the paid ones, okay, in Canva is this called Grab Text. It'll try its best to figure out what font it is. It'll figure out this one pretty easily. This one here, let's give it a go. Let's click on this one, say grab it. Let's have a look, watch. It's not exactly the same. So I'm going to paste it in again. So not exactly the same, but it's in the vibe, right? And I'm like, actually, quite like that one. So instead of kinetic, it's going to be living. Oh, I like it. Okay, look better as the word kinetic. And that's some of the things you're like, oh, that looks cool. And then you type in your letters and you're like, not as good. But anyway, that's another trick. Sometimes it gets it perfect and sometimes it gets you close. One last thing before we go on, you'll see me do in fast mode is that it might be that you go copy paste and you're like, I'm going to do couple of these. Okay, so I got living and I got spree. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one a bit bigger just by grabbing the corner, and I'm going to go to one of the last effects I'm going to show you. Go to effects and there's this one called curved. That can be handy. Okay, and I've got a weird space there on mine. Okay, but see the curving here? Okay, you can say, all right, I want that at the top, and then this is going to curve at the bottom. So I'm going to go to negative, spin it around. Okay, so it might be that you're building it around a circle. That's some of the things I'm going to do. You just have them in separate text boxes. That's one thing that kind of took me a little while to learn. You're like, all right, they're not in the same box. You just kind of like line them up to make them feel like they're in the same one. Hopefully yours won't be as ugly. Anyway, watch the super fast version of me picking fonts. Actually, I'll cut in here real quick if there's anything interesting. I like doing sometimes playing with the weight. This font here, I just like, oh, I wonder if there's a different version of it. I went to Monument, looked in here, and there was a ultralight, regular, and bold, and I just kind of like played around with that. All right, little cut in. Sometimes when they're all in the same text box, it can be tricky working on them. So this one here, I just separated them into their own text box. And then another handy trick is to click on them and just kind of like nudge them around. All right, so this mess is where I ended up. There was just a lot of picking fonts, going back and forth, looking at my mood board, competitors, trying to figure out what I want to do. And like, some of them are horrible, some of them I like more. One thing that did happen and often happens, and it can't be really so much a step, is the magic happens. And what ended up happening for me is that I was looking at this. So I screenshotted the page. This is me looking at Dribble, just looking at cool stuff. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like, I don't know, it feels kind of hellish. There was blood kind of feeling vibe. And I was like, oh, actual blood. I can't have blood. And I was like, oh, death and glory. And I'm like, oh, can I have blood? And for me, this brand has this kind of like doing stuff maker's mentality. When I'm making stuff, often there's blood involved because I've cut myself. That kind of started the story. And then I'm thinking ink, paint, creativity, drips. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I can have drips. Maybe they can be more ink, or maybe this kind of like, is it ink? Is it blood? And that's when I kind of started down here doing this kind of splatty stuff. Okay. And it starts a really good story of like when we're making stuff, this kind of car culture maker kind of area, there is times you cut yourself and spill paint. And then when I was laying it in, it's like ink. Oh, there's a double meaning. And while that's not the best example, what it is an example of is when I go to the client and I say, all right, here's this one. It's very hard for me to come up with a story and convince them why they should believe into it, because I don't really believe into it. But when I see something like this, I have a story. I talk about the times where I've cut myself working and why I'm the guy wearing all the PPE because I'm so dangerous with tools. But then there's that double meaning of ink, and it's not ink, and maybe we don't use red because you can kind of tell like I have a story to tell, and it's a much more convincing story to the client. Now, because I'm the client in this one, this is where I've stopped. This is the logo that I'm going to go for. It fits in with what I'm doing here. I love this kind of like double, this edged here thing. Don't even know how to describe it, but it's very in the scene. It is kind of pixely. I'm thinking Game Boy. There's vibes in there. I'd have to articulate myself a bit better. I've picked a really simple sans serif font, kind of like from these guys, but then I've added this like little flair here, the drips, and I think I can use the drips throughout the different parts of the brand. Maybe not the exact same one, but I do like that idea. Some of the other ones, these are my kind of like finals here that I really liked, okay? And these are ones that I might go to the client with. But this is the one I'm gonna try and sell the most. And I've sold myself, there you go. Now, obviously you don't like have a step in the process saying add magical story, but you do need to find them. It might be just the story around the color and how it relates to, and the fonts relate to these existing ones and how we want to align ourselves with people that, or the competitors that already exist. But you need to keep a lookout in your head about times where you're like, oh, this is the reason I'm doing it. Oh, that's a good idea. This is a way I can communicate with my client. Anyway, you get the idea. Add magic. Let's move on to the next step. All right, next step, color. I like to have my kind of logo of choice on a dark and light background while I'm working. And a good place to start with color is to have a look at competitors. So we can all have a look at this and go, all right, what color is the rest of the industry stroking beard? It is red. Everything is red. Let's have a look at some other ones. Remember this one from earlier, healthcare? Oh, there's a bit of red, but there's some clear blue in there as well. Blue and green are pretty dominant. These ones here, you can get a sense from the industry, what everyone seems to use. And then you can decide like, oh yeah, I want to fit in, so I'm gonna be red. Or I want to be different. I want to be the opposite of red. What's the opposite of red? You can make it up, but that will give you some language when you are talking to the client to say, this is where we're at, this is the color I'm picking, and this is the reason why. We want to fit in, or we don't want to fit in. All right, so if you're new to color, there's some really handy tools from Canva. Again, I'll leave them in the description. Okay, so you don't have to pick a color because of the industry. You can pick any color you like, but you better have some language behind it to be able to convey the reasons why. Okay, and this one here, the color palettes one, it's just cool to see colors that go together. But let's say we are using the red, okay, and we want to find the opposite of red, or at least a color that goes with red if you're going to use red. First of all, let's find out from our competitors. Let's pick, like, they're all very similar. Let's say we're going to use Globe. I'm going to copy it, put it on its own doc. I don't mind what kind, even though I'm going to pick ages. There you go. Any old doc, hit paste. And what you can do is you can say, all right, I'm going to hit R for a rectangle, and I'm going to say, you, my friend, right click, apply colors to the page. And it just kind of yanks it out and puts it into a cube. Now I can say, there's other ways of doing that, but I'm going to say you, all right, are that color code here. Then I can go back to some of the resources from Canva, and I can say this one here. Okay, this is the color wheel from Canva. And I can say, this is my color, and it's going to say, what's a complementary color to it? There it is there. I can say, all right, I don't want to be red. I want to be the opposite of red. And can you see? There's red on the color wheel. The opposite side is there. And often it works well together if you want to use them together, but also if you want to like have a stance and be separate, there you go. There's your color. Let me quickly do mine. You can see out there, I can just paste in that code that I got from the website, and then we go, we're using the green. Now, some other tools that are useful for you is that you don't have to just use complementary. You can work your way through this, okay, and look at different versions. Can you see it's kind of picking analogous picks, kind of just a little bit left, just a little bit right to the logos, okay, and making you a 3-color swatch. But let's say we do have that color and we need to give it some meaning for ourselves, okay? There's this option here called color meaning. This is helpful. So I'm going to use that teal, okay, here it is here, okay, and it's going to give you reasons about what it's for, what it gets used for, give you the language to be able to talk to yourself and to the client about like, what does this actually mean? You can see here it's named for the area around the eye of a common teal bird. Look how smart you're getting. There again, calming properties of blue, infinity of the sea and the sky, all sorts of good language that you can get into your head to get better at color, to be able to communicate your ideas better. Super handy. The last one that you might go and do with the color, there's this option here. It's okay, the psychology of color. Don't take it like there's not 100, like red can be explained a couple of different ways. Don't think this is only one rule for all of this, but read this document, have a read through and get a sense for how color impacts on branding. You might disagree and that's totally cool, but you need something to disagree with. So go have a read, get your education up. You might try my Canva Essentials course. We cover it in a lot more detail. But when you do hear branding people or logo design people being very articulate about their colors, it's because they went and researched it and learned about it and were interested in it. That's how you get there. Anyway, I'm gonna mess around with color in fast mode. All right, quick step. I showed you how to steal colors using the other method where we copied and pasted it. That's the long way. I'll click the background. I click on this. There's an eyedropper in here. Then I can click on this, and I'm going to do the same for these other ones. There you go. Eyedropper is way easier. Anyway, carry on. All right, a lot of trial and error later, I've ended up with red. Red. Good work, Dan. Special kind of red, but just a red. I've also given myself a secondary color that I can use in the branding. I like it. It doesn't work for the logo, but I think I can use it within, I don't know, maybe the website, maybe presentations, that sort of thing. So there's my primary color. That's my secondary color. I've given myself some different tones of it. Okay, so one is just a lighter and darker version to give myself options while I'm working. So I'm not just using one of the color, I've got different options while I'm working. And it's cool, then they're in cubes on the page. It looks, I don't know, looks professional. And I've got this version that goes on the dark, and you can run this version on the dark as well, but it needs the line around the outside. That's what I've decided. All right, I'm gonna turn it into a brand kit now. So I won't go into too much detail. We don't wanna make this video too long, it's already really long. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new brand. Into my logo, I'm going to say this brand. We're going to switch to my new brand kit. Where we go? Living Spree Ink. Let's add all these colors. You wait there. All right, let's add our fonts. I'm going to use just the main one. There's that one here. This is one that I've paid for from Envato. And we'll bring in the logos. We've got to export them first and then bring them in. If you haven't set up a brand kit before, you do need the pro version. You can check out this link on the screen here. There's an affiliate link for me if you do want to get signed up for the paid version of Canva. You ready for that? So you got to export them as a PNG and then go over here and import them. Okay, upload your logos. So actually, let's jump to when that's done. That takes ages. Export them as a PNG on their own page and then import them. Again, we'll cover it all properly in the full course. Stop trying to sell us the course, Dan. All right. All right, you don't have to put stuff into the brand kit. It's just, that's helpful, but it's a paid feature. You can just export your logo, okay, as a JPEG or a PNG if you can do it, because then you get to do this, mocking it up. So I'm going to add a new page. I'm going to find the app, okay? Mine's already open, but under apps, you can search for mockup. This is pretty cool. This one here. This one's made by Canva, I'm pretty sure. And what it does is find something, always got to have the mug, make the mug nice and big, and then add an image to it. We've added ours to our brand kit, so that's helpful. Okay, I can say, all right, which one do I want? Ooh, which one of the brands? Probably this one. Okay, add it to the page. You can just import an image using your uploads if you want. Okay, but I can just click, hold, and drag it, and ready, steady. It is so much cooler seeing things in real life. I don't know why, but it does. Let me do a few more. All right, there you go. There's something special about getting it off like a plain Canva background and actually seeing it on this stuff. I try and do it as early as possible. Like it doesn't have to be such a linear process. Like it's linear in this video, but like sometimes it's just like, all right, let's take this concept and use the mockup tool. Super quick, super easy. And often I can get to a point, you know, at that stage and go, oh man, I am doubly in love with this logo, you know, seeing it on stuff. Sometimes I'm like, nope. This is a terrible logo. It's really hard to use. It just doesn't read well. Looks bad, big, bad, small. Get it onto things early. Then the next step is actually getting it out into the real world, getting it off the computer, making some stuff. Let me show you what I did. All right, my first point of call normally is to make things into stickers, because stickers are awesome. What I do is I export an SVG from Canva, and then I use this thing here. It's a Cricut Maker 3, and I use that to kind of trim out some vinyl. Then I spend way too long weeding the stickers, pulling out the bits you don't need. Then it's a matter of finding homes for it. For me, I know my brand is cool enough that it gets to go on the back of my Datsun here. That's a good signal. Look at me trying to pretend my Datsun has anything to do with Canva. Now I've made a few extra stickers. If you want one and you're a bringyourownlaptop.com subscriber, check out the announcements. I'll do a post there and you can enter and I'll just pick a few people and send you out stickers. If you're not a subscriber and you want to join me for the full Canva Essentials course, we make all sorts of cool stuff like this. Come join me. You get to learn Canva, but also learn some of the design kind of theory fundamentals as well. So go sign up. There's a link in the description. I'll wait maybe 6 to 8 weeks after this video goes live on YouTube to give people a chance to sign up. And yeah, just keep an eye out on the dashboard. Now this is a more practical use of my logo. I like to make things in the real world, and I like to put my kind of logo, Living Spree logo on them. And this is what I made this week. It's a custom catch cam for my car. Also made this big sign here for my workshop / office door. Didn't quite go to plan. It's hypnotic to watch until the 3D printer at about the 10-hour mark puked its white guts out. Look at it. That should be covering up all of that kind of like crosshatch pattern. And one of the interesting things I want to kind of include here is sometimes things like this happen when you're in the real world trying to put the brand to work. And what I'm going to do is, instead of I'm going to try and make lemonade out of this lemon here and say, see that crosshatch pattern? I'm going to say that's now part of it. I like it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Okay, I'm going to leave it like this because I don't want to print it, but also I'm going to start using this kind of element in other parts of the brand. It gives it a really good story. Like the crosshatch is kind of cool, but when it actually comes from real life and use cases and a good story behind it, branding essentially is storytelling, and that's going to be a little element that I can add to this brand as it develops. And that is my logo design process. Remember, there's not one way of designing logos. This isn't the best way. Take the bits from mine that you like, steal other people's ways of designing logos, smash it with your own life experiences, and come up with your own way of doing stuff. That'll be right for you. All right, that is it. Ka kite anō. Bye.